Nailed the superhero landing. So guys, S in Mercedes-Benz has always been about the big cheese, the most important car in their entire lineup, the car that really defines Mercedes-Benz, much like Superman. Now, giving this EQ car the S name has put quite the burden on it because we have high expectations for an S at Mercedes-Benz. The EQS is really their poster child for the future of what Mercedes-Benz is going to look like. It's a car that's been worked on for years and years now, and it's their first pure EV from the ground up, not based on any other platform. And this is a modular platform that can later then be rolled out across a whole host of brand new EQ cars, specifically designed to be electric from the start. So today we are going to explore everything to do with the new EQS. We're going to focus on this, the Edition 1 version, I'll go into that later, and we're going to look through all of the technical aspects of the car. Then we'll look at the design of it, how does it differentiate itself from a standard Mercedes-Benz, which is absolutely key with the EQS. And then we're going to have a deep dive in the interior with my colleague Toby in Germany. Let's dive straight in and check out this, the electric poster boy for Mercedes-Benz's future, the new EQS. So guys, a quick hi to Toby, who's in Germany for RBR, who'll be covering the interior and the co-drive of the EQS.
And we are back in Stuttgart. My name's Toby and I am standing next to the EQS Edition 1. Like Raz told you before, it is a very, very remarkable and special car, and what we are going to do is an interior deep dive, because the interior of the EQS is very unique and very, very special, not only because it's the Edition 1, but of course, the moment we've all been waiting for, it's the hyperscreen.
So guys, this is make or break now for Mercedes-Benz. We had the misfire of the original EQC, which, frankly speaking, one of the ugliest looking SUVs ever. I'm sorry to the Mercedes designers who worked on it. For me, it was just a really bulbous GLC where the combustion car just looked miles better. Now, I think they've got the right idea of going from scratch on an EV car. And you can see it here with the EQS. It's a totally different shape to the S-Class. And that was done on purpose to differentiate the EQ cars from the get-go to the combustion cars. So you're getting something different for going in a different direction. And that is the one bow design of the roofline that I'll go into later. And of course, the cab forward design rather than the cab backward, something else that I'll go into later as well. But the first thing that I want to talk about really is the technical aspect, the meaty bit of this. What lies under the skin of our EQS? Of course, it is a pure EV car. But what does that mean? How does it differentiate itself from other vehicles? Well, the headline figure here is the range, I think, more than anything. 770 kilometer range, Mercedes are saying on this. That is massive. And to do that, they've constructed whole new battery cells here, which you can see laid at the bottom of the car. This is all new battery technology by Mercedes-Benz, and they're really standing behind it because they're giving you a substantial warranty up to 250,000 kilometers and up to 10 years. And as I said, the range is pretty fantastic. You can get up to 300 kilometers on a fast charger in just 15 minutes, and it can charge up to powers of 200 kilowatts. So very, very impressive in terms of just the charging structure. But to talk about the electric motors, we first have to define the two separate models that you're getting. One is the EQS 450 Plus, which is a rear-wheel drive version that only has a motor on the rear. And then we have currently the top version, which is the EQS 580 4MATIC, which, as you can guess, being a 4MATIC, has an electric motor on the front and one on the rear, which is slightly more powerful as well. Now, the electric motor itself are permanently synchronous motors. Now, the key thing about every EV is about power management, and you keep hearing about these permanently synchronous motors in either the Taycan or something like the EQS, or even in the AMG derivatives that we recently told you about. And the reason that they do this is that you don't need to then supply power to the AC motor, because you've got magnets that are permanently on, so you don't need to supply power to them. That's what makes them super efficient. That's why you get more power density. That's why you get quicker reaction times, etc. The way the motors have been mounted as well allows for noise reduction, vibration reduction, all to make this the quietest Mercedes ever. Now, our rear electric motor is the important one. It's on both cars, albeit with different powers. It's a 6-phase design with 2 windings with 3 phases each. And in the 450 Plus, it gives us 245 kilowatts or 333 brake horsepower, and that's solely from the unit on the rear. We've got 568 Newton meters of torque and a 0 to 60 of around 6.2 seconds. And then we come to the 580, more powerful on the rear now, 255 on the rear and 135 on the front, all giving you together 523 brake horsepower, 855 Newton meters and a 0 to 60 of around 4.3 seconds. So that is the more powerful of the bunch. I'll talk to you about the AMG version that's coming shortly. You get a top speed on both regardless of 210 kilometers per hour, and range on both is up to 770 kms, again, regardless. And what's quite interesting is there is only a single speed transmission, unlike, say, the Taycan or even the AMG hybrid variants that we recently reviewed, which had a 2-speed transmission, one for lower speeds and one for higher. EQS doesn't seem to need that. It seems to have a clever enough power delivery system to not warrant that, although it's weird, I had a 71-page press release, of which about 1.5 pages was to do with the electric drive unit. So I'm running with what I've got here, okay guys? Work with me. Now, in terms of the weights of the car, versus its nearest rival, which is Taycan, this is quite the heavy car. In the 450, it weighs in at around about 2480 kg, which is heavy. I mean, we're talking, what, 300 kg above the same Taycan? And then you look at the 580 even more, 2585 kg. Again, quite a bit higher than the equivalent Porsche, though Mercedes will undoubtedly argue that this is a larger car, it's more like an S-Class, etc., etc. We have got an EQE coming, which might be more in line with Taycan. But regardless, it is quite a heavy car. It'll be interesting to see what it actually drives like. We're not going to be making any determinations on that today. In terms of the chassis and suspension, all essentially shared with S-Class, 4-link setup on the front, multi-link setup on the rear. So in that sense, it's really just an S-Class. Now, in terms of tech, this thing is a beast. It has got over 350 different sensors in this car that work together with algorithms and AI, artificial intelligence, in order to be the brain of the car. I mean, it knows so much about the surroundings around it thanks to the LiDAR sensors and so much hidden behind that black panel that we'll discuss. And every other sensor in the car. I mean, this thing knows how often you call your mum or your mistress. You should be afraid of this car. It knows too much. Another cool technical feature is the digital light on this. It's an optional extra, but like the S-Class, it projects road markings or the width of the car or other important information in front of the car via projectors in the headlights in front. I mean, it's just incredible. And then one of the coolest features on the EQS are the automatic comfort doors. This is an optional extra, but it's so cool because when you walk up to the car, the handles pop out the doors, and as you get closer, the door itself will open for you. Or if you're controlling it from the inside, you can open the rear doors yourself if someone wants to climb in or get out, say the kids are coming in and out of school. That's a really, really sweet feature in this car. One final really cool thing that comes standard in the EQS is rear axle steering, as we saw in the S-Class. And it comes standard with 4.5 degrees, but in a real dick move by Mercedes, you can get an over-the-air update to make it 10 degrees like the S-Class. So it's just software. Wow, that's bold, guys. But if you do get the 10 degrees, you get an even shorter turning circle than a compact car. So I think most people are going to end up doing that. Anyway, let's get on to design, because the design is really interesting in this car. I think it's going to be very Marmite, and I'm dreading to see the comments in the comment section, but I'm also looking forward to seeing your opinions. So first of all, let's take it back. Let's go back to where this design came from. I think the first car that really influenced it in a big way, and it was a huge car for the RBR channel as well in terms of success, was the Vision Avatar. Now, when I say success on RBR, it was mainly because people were abusing the hell out of it in the comments, but it was a gorgeous thing, let's be honest. It was very futuristic. Yes, it was all based around the Avatar film, but you can see, even now, that front black panel, you can see the kind of that one bow design, the strong shoulders, a few lines, but that basic idea of what the EQS ended up becoming, or rather the EQS concept that came first, that previewed this, of course, it looks even more exciting than the final car because you can't really get 24-inch wheels on a road car of this size. It would just look weird. And of course, you got the lighted grille and everything. That's where the entire concept for the final EQS came to. And to be fair, they came pretty close for a road-going car. I mean, it's very different, isn't it? It is very different. To me, I prefer cab backward designs rather than cab forward. What does cab forward mean? Right, well, let's talk about this one first. This is interesting. So you see where our front A-pillar comes all the way forward, almost close to our front wheel arch. Then you have even the window section in front of it, which people are like, well, why is that there? It's because it's cab forward. And then on the rear, again, where normally you'd open the rear door and you'd see the rear wheel arch, that's not the case here, because the rear wheel sits further back, and the effect of it is giving you that much more space for the occupants inside. That links then to the one bow design that they keep talking about, that you might have heard of. And if you essentially follow the window line, you see it doesn't break. And that is our one bow design. It flows all the way through. You'll also notice we've got no bonnet release here, because there is no bonnet. This is all sealed. The front bonnet links straight into our front wings here, which I don't think I've ever seen that on another car. We've got pillarless doors, and overall, just a strong shoulder on both sides, but a seamless, it almost looks like a land yacht to me, I think. And that wouldn't be surprising, because Gordon Wagner, he loves his boats. So essentially that's the look. And they did this on purpose, A, to give more room inside, and B, to completely differentiate their EQ cars to their combustion ones. I hope that means that the combustion ones will survive alongside these in the future. But it was a very purposeful decision to make this look very, very different, to say rather than an S-Class, we're just a load of electric motors. Now let's deep dive a bit more into the specifics of the design here. The main thing on this car on the front is what they're calling the black panel, which is our grille area here. And this behind it houses all the usual sensors that you'd have in terms of radar driving, LiDAR sensors, etc., all neatly hidden behind here. On the car we have here, we have the option of that comes on the AMG line or the electric line with the Mercedes little stars, which come back from 1911. Our lights are, as with S-Class, you've got the 3 dots, but then it's a straight bar going across the front. And this is something that they're going to continue, I think, on every EQ car as the identity of the car at the front. It's a similar story on the rear that I'll show you in a minute. For the AMG line that we have on this Edition 1, you'll see almost the exact same look as we have on our AMG line S-Class in terms of the lower, or the air intake area. Very, very much like S-Class. I think it looks quite nice, actually. The wheels, they're large, they go up to 22 inches, and you do get some different selections on the wheels as well. One comes with the Mercedes-Benz pattern, again, like we saw on the grille as well, if you're into that. All very aerodynamically optimized, as always. Before I move on to the rear, you'll notice we have a little panel on the front wing here, and this is actually to top up your wiper fluid, because as I said, the bonnet doesn't open. All that we've got under there is our electric drive unit components. Then we come to the rear, which should look pretty familiar in terms of EQ stuff. We've got the single bar light, which is a 3D helix design, is what they're calling it. I guess that's the design within the light bar itself. They say that all of the future EQ cars will have that look on the rear, so a straight light on the rear, straight light on the front as well. We've also got the rear diffuser with a few fins at the bottom. But yeah, not too much going on the rear. I like the look of the lights. I think they look quite nice. Now, in terms of the Edition 1, all that really differentiates it on the outside is the two-tone paintwork. We've got high-tech silver as debuted in the GT Black series, alongside the Obsidian Black. Of course, this is all mimicking that EQS concept. I do find it weird that they decided to arch into the wheel arch and then go back, rather than just having a straight line to emphasize that kind of shoulder. I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that. So that entire design makes this the most aerodynamically efficient car in the world at a rating of 0.20 CD, which is insane. And of course, this not only helps with noise levels, but it helps with range and general operating efficiency as well. So a lot of the reason the car looks the way it does, I think, is because they wanted to make it that aerodynamic as well. Now, if we compare it directly to the S-Class in terms of its design, while it looks like a cousin of the car, it is immediately recognizable as something totally different, both on the front and absolutely also on the rear. And if this is what they were going for, well, hey, you've achieved it. I'm not sure what I think about it, because I prefer cab backward designs. I like stuff like the Maybach concepts that they made with the gigantic front bonnets, much the opposite of what the EQS is today. But that's just my personal preference. I'd love to know what you guys think. So let's have a quick comparison versus Taycan, because I just want to show you what two completely different ways of designing a car to be a pure EV can go. So you've got like a more sports car way, and undoubtedly what I think is more of a land yacht, much more luxury focused. So interesting, let me know which one you like. So guys, we've had a look at the exterior. Now, let's head over back to Toby for a full interior rundown, including that crazy hyper screen MBUX display.
So one of the coolest EQS features is when you approach the car, it opens the driver door itself, and I can now just close it by pressing and holding the brake pedal. See? No hands whatsoever. And that being said, welcome to the interior of the EQS Edition 1. What you are seeing here is this bluish trim material covering the dashboard here and also the side door panels. We have the flowing vents or the flowing line that the vents here are picking up around us. Also the ambient lighting that is flowing around us here in the interior. And of course, the big hyper screen. As of now, it's almost completely turned off. So from my point of view, it kind of looks like one large screen, but if I turn on the car by pressing this button here in the central console, it comes to life. Let's pretend I'm Ola Kalenius and I have his PIN number. First thing that I'm seeing is, of course, we have the central driver's display. The curvature of the screen really comes out nicely, and it's something that's new to the eye. Also, we have the curve here in the center screen. You can really see and feel that, and also the curve around here. So basically it goes like from left to right, from top to bottom. We have flowing lines, we have organic curves here in the screen. We are now seeing on the third screen, we're now seeing a still image of the Vision Avatar, really cool car. So this screen right now, the passenger screen, has basically, for me as a driver, no function. Later we're going to switch seats and I will show you the screen as well. What we are seeing here on the middle screen of the hyperscreen is something it is the same like in the S-Class, or maybe I would say also like in the upcoming C-Class. But of course the format is changed, so we are now more in a horizontal lineup compared to this like vertical style that we are seeing in different cars. But I have to say I actually like it because it flows very natural. It's also easy to use. It's reachable with no problems, and we have basically the same functionalities like in the S-Class or in the upcoming C-Class. Sometimes by mistake I tend to touch these buttons here, because when I sit here, let's say in the driver position, just like this, I'm driving, and sometimes I'm having my arm rested here on the armrest here in the middle, and when I try to reach here and I go back, it's a possibility that you like hit a button and maybe the stereo turns on or something. But it's just a minor thing, but I've just noticed it when sitting in the car and when using it. So I'm having here all of my necessary buttons for dynamic select, start, stop, of course. I can turn the car on and off in here, and also the fingerprint sensor. Of course, I'm having these vents here. They're also pretty nice. They look like a turbine or something. Also highlighted with some ambient light here, which is also pretty nice. The wooden trim here with these lines are very reminiscent of sailing yachts or something, which is very, very enjoyable. Of course, we have the stitched leather here, our normal compartment in here, also for charging my phone. And beneath here, we are having this tray here for also keeping stuff down there. I could put my phone in there, or car keys, or some snacks or something, maybe even some smaller bottles. Quick chat about the steering wheel. It's a familiar steering wheel. We're getting it on the E-Class, the S-Class. So steering wheel is basically pretty normal with the touching surfaces here and the buttons. Gear lever and everything like that has this nice aluminum touches here. So now I switched to the passenger seat, and the S-Class. The MBUX here on the hyperscreen is suggesting a very funny option right now that I haven't seen when I was sitting on the driver's seat. So in theory, I could open and close all 4 doors by using the sliders here on the screen, which is very, very nice. So basically what happened to the screen here right now is it changed from the image that was displayed here to an active element. So I am now having my own home button. I am having basically my own MBUX. When I approach the screen, I get some highlights here because of some proximity sensors. Yeah, now I could set my own comfort setting here. So basically this third screen gives me as a passenger a little bit more interaction with the car. I can set it up the way just the way I want it to be, which is very interesting, and it's a very unique feature which absolutely makes sense for me as a passenger. Well, because I can choose everything I want just for myself, logged in with my profile. So, and now guys, it's time to jump in the back of the EQS Edition 1. Let's not forget we are in basically the electric S-Class EQS Edition 1. So, and I'm 1.90 m, okay? What we're doing now is we're going to test the seating position. So let me just sit upright and we will see what happens, okay? So I'm now sitting upright. And as you can see, I can sit comfortably, but let's be honest, it's a big difference to the normal S-Class, and that's because of the swooping roofline. When I sit upright like this, I don't know if you can still see me if I sit like that, but my head definitely touches the pillars here and the roof. So what I would have to do for longer rides, I would have to slide down a little bit in the seat, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but if I had to choose, I would also and always choose a car that I would be able to sit upright if I want to without having any problems. So this is the first thing that I'm noticing here. On the other side though, the interior, especially in this very light white color topped with a light blue here, the whole interior feeling is very, very spacious somehow. I know it kind of contradicts that I'm not having too much space for my head up here, but in terms of the feeling, even when I close the door real quick, it feels airy, it feels spacious. There's a lot of light coming in through the glass roof. And also, because we are not having some kind of middle tunnel or anything like that, it feels spacious here. I have a lot of room to operate here inside. It's also a thing that I cannot adjust the bench or the seat that I'm sitting on. So the only options that I am having here, even though I have the button in theory, the button for the bottom section of the seat is not functional. And it won't be functional from what I've heard. So basically I can only adjust the back side here, so I can tilt it forward and backward, and of course I can adjust the headrest, which obviously comes with the perfect S-Class cushion here. So we're having 4 of these and they are superb. You have tons of space for your legs, you have tons of room in here, so maybe that's a little trade-off that you have to think about when deciding if you want to get an S-Class or the EQS. You have to be aware that the luxurious S-Class-like rear seats feeling is different in the EQS. That's basically about it. Infotainment-wise, I also have my own MBUX system here. Res, I think we have gone really deep into the EQS here. What do you think? Let me know, and it's back to you, Res.
So some strong opinions by Toby on the interior there. I'm inclined to agree with him. Some quick notes on the interior from me. I think the Hyperscreen inside looks a lot like the black panel grille that we have on the outside in its shape. And when they say it's one screen, well, when the screens are turned on, really, it looks just like 3. There must be a way to make these look a bit more seamless, especially when you have something flying between the 2 of them. It just looks very, very obvious. I do like the way it floats off the dashboard, however. That's very, very clever, and the curvature that Toby was talking about. Next, I love the driver zone with so many different displays to choose from. We got Classic, the typical Mercedes one, Sport, which is much more AMG in look, and then Understated, which uses the ambient lighting color, just like we saw in the S-Class. And one final note, for a car that's meant to have more space for being cab forward, it's got a really tiny boot, and it doesn't seem like the interior is as spacious as the S-Class. So guys, the future. There is an AMG version being planned, and the press release did mention a more powerful version that will have up to 761 brake horsepower. I think it will look something like this, the AMG version, because we were told in the AMG press release, as I showed you in my other videos, that would have something like a Panamericana vertical grille in the front, unique lower bumper, unique side sills, unique wheels in heritage design, and a unique diffuser, etc. Of course, the interior will have its own bits and pieces, and we'll have to see how does it stack up in terms of performance. AMG said it was up there with its current V8 cars. So I'm thinking, what, a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds? Torque of maybe up to 1,000 Newton meters would make sense for a system like this. So we'll have to see, will the AMG version be able to differentiate itself enough? In terms of future EQ cars, we know EQE is being worked on, we know an SUV of the S-Class is being worked on as well, all based on this modular structure. I personally can't wait to drive it, I can't wait to experience it. It's very, very different. I'm trying to keep an open mind here because when we look at cars like the AVTR, we're like, wow, why can't concept cars come to life? The EQS kind of has done that, and we're all battling against it, but we're going into a new era. If the S-Class is maintaining itself as a combustion hybrid car, I'm happy to welcome a new thing and see what it's like first before passing final judgment. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this first full look at the EQS. If you have, please do like, subscribe, and share this with your petrolhead friends, and I'll see you guys later.